And then I'm going to read a case law, too, if I got time, that people are using in these foreclosure cases, and like it's going to give them a win. And I'm going to show you it's actually hurting them because they didn't read the whole thing. Oh, I think I got it. Found the link to it. Yep, here it is. I found the link, and I'm going to put it in the chat now. All I did was type in the title. Here it is right there. You might have to copy and paste that, put that in your web browser, and you'll pull it up, okay? Be mindful that if you got questions, press 1. I'll get to the questions probably at the top of the hour, shortly after 8, and then I'll the show it in. All right, let's go to attacking affidavits, maintaining the integrity of the process. Very good article. Thanks to the brother for sending this to me. Gave me something. I had something else I was going to talk about, but I thought this was a little more important. Okay. The use of affidavits by counsel, whether submitted by the defense to substantiate its contentions that summary judgment is warranted, or by the plaintiff in an effort to show the existence of a material issue for trial, often can be an effective method of presenting information critical to court's evaluation of the merits of the case. However, in many respects, the formalities of affidavits have fallen by the wayside. That's an understatement. Over time, as courts have become less procedurally formal, there has been a corresponding erosion of standards governing testamentary evidence submitted by practitioners and considered by courts. So they're telling you the courts are not following the rules like they should. As standards for affiant submitted evidence have eroded and fallen by the wayside, so has the integrity of the fact-finding process. The importance of maintaining and enforcing the standards established for sworn statements is as important as the integrity of the justice system itself. This article revisits and emphasizes the procedural and practical requirements for the admissibility of sworn statements. Now, this article I'm going to read is going to show you how your stuff is supposed to look when you submitted it and how their stuff is supposed to look. And if it doesn't look like that, it's not evidence. I need y'all to stay with me on that. Get off those other far-out topics that's been getting people in trouble. Supporting or opposing affidavits must be made on personal knowledge, set out facts that would be admissible in evidence, and show that the affiant is competent to testify to the matter stated. Federal Rules of Civil Procedures 56E1. So let's pull that up. Let's pull that up and see what that says. That's based on summary judgment. It says E1. Failing to properly support or address a fact. If a party fails to properly support an assertion of a fact or fails to properly address another party's assertion of fact as required by Rule 56C, the court may, 1, give an opportunity to properly support or address the fact, 2, consider the fact undisputed or purposes of the motion, 3, grant summary judgment if the motion and supporting materials, including the facts considered, undisputed, show that the movement is entitled to, or 4, issue any other appropriate order. What is it telling you here? That you must challenge anything that they're calling fact. Any supporting materials. It says, consider the fact undisputed for purposes of the motion. See, what's happening is these guys are entering summary judgment against you, and you are not disputing the facts they're presenting. What are the facts? The affidavits or the unsworn affidavits, unsworn exhibits, unsworn statements made by attorneys. And it references Rule 56C. Procedures. Supporting factual positions. A party asserting that a fact cannot be or generally disputed must be supported by the attestations by A, citing particular parts of materials in the record, including depositions, documents, electronically stored information, affidavits or declarations, stipulations, including those made for the purposes of the motion, admissions, interrogatories, answers, or other materials, or B, showing that the materials cited do not establish absence or presence of genuine dispute, or that an adverse verdict cannot produce admissible evidence to support the fact. See, it says that an adverse party cannot produce admissible evidence to support the fact. And you need to say that in your paperwork when you're rebutting. The adverse party cannot produce admissible evidence to support the fact. I would actually copy and paste that and put that in there. All right? So let's go back to the document. A party who submits evidence in the form of affidavits must do so in the proper, authenticated form. Even at a preliminary stage of trial, courts should not permit admission of documents that do not strictly comply with procedural rules. This is saying that the court is supposed to check that on its own. Hey, this is not supported according to the rules. But they're not doing that. They're letting their buddies get away with murder in these situations. It is imperative that a party's sworn submission be sufficient in execution and substance, as well as consistent with prior assertions to ensure the integrity of the process. Accordingly, practitioners should re-examine their affidavit forms and consider whether they are in compliance with the applicable rules and case law as to form. Practitioners also should examine opposing counsel's submissions and move to strike any that do not meet the clear standards set forth for admissible affidavits or sworn statements. So it's telling you right out the gate, you need to move to strike anything that doesn't meet the standards of a sworn statement, sworn affidavit. Okay? Sworn exhibits. Technical requirements for a sworn statement are critical, but often not met. The mere signing of a statement in the presence of a notary or a notary's placement of an acknowledgement on a statement does not constitute a sworn statement or affidavit. In Orsi versus Kirkwood, 99F2D 8691, 4th Circuit, 1993, the plaintiff argued that courts should be lenient in accepting documents at the summary judgment stage as long as they are probative or at least evidence of evidence that could later be introduced at trial. The court rejected this argument, holding, we have no desire to make technical minefields of summary judgment proceedings, but neither can we countenance laxness in the proper presentation of proof. It at 92. Every practitioner and court should hold to this rule to ensure the integrity of the process. So what this is saying, there isn't any what you call relaxing or giving latitude to this process. It's strict procedures when it comes to evidence. In one precedential case, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit was confronted with the issue of whether a party's signed statement given in the presence of a notary constitutes competent summary judgment evidence. Nisho Iwa A.M. Court versus Klein. The acknowledgement at the end of the purported affidavit considered by the court read as follows. Before me, the undersigned authority on this day personally appeared, Ms. Rukmini Sukarno Klein, known to me to be the person whose name is subscribed to the foregoing affidavit, and acknowledged to me that she executed the same for the purpose and consideration therein expressed, and she signed it. Given under my hand and seal of office this 17th day of April 1983, then it says Robert C. Bennett Jr., Notary Public, in for Harris County, Texas. ID at 1306. In spite of opposing counsel's argument that the evaluation of this submission was hyper-technical, the court held that this acknowledgement was insufficient to convert the unsworn statement into a valid affidavit and was thus properly disregarded as competent summary judgment evidence. In support of this conclusion of law, for which it had been positively cited 85 times by courts throughout the country, the court held the only evidence in the summary judgment record purporting to justify appellate's position was her own rendition of facts contained in a notarized self-described affidavit. This affidavit is neither sworn nor its contents stated to be true and correct nor stated under penalty of perjury. A recent federal court ruling in Texas similarly demonstrates this pitfall. Schostetter versus Montgomery County, Texas, 2006 WL 1117883. In the court held that statements that merely bear the signature of a notary, as were proffered by the plaintiffs, constitute neither affidavits nor sworn statements appropriate for the court's consideration upon the defendant's motion for summary judgment. The court rejected the plaintiff's submissions as proper evidence holding. Plaintiffs have filed a number of witness statements that plaintiffs' counsels characterize as affidavits, but they are not sworn to, nor are they statements made under penalty of perjury. The mere signing of a statement in the presence of a notary or a notary's placement of an acknowledgement on a statement does not constitute a sworn statement or affidavit. Accordingly, the statements do not constitute summary judgment evidence under Rule 56C and are not considered on the pending motion. So you got an affidavit and you put your notary thing, that's not a sworn affidavit. You have to have something in there that swears to the fact. That's why in my passport affidavit, it's got a sworn statement in it. It's the root. What is it? The 1746 without the United States. Y'all know what that is. Let me pull up that and I'll read it. See, you have to have something saying that this is made under penalty of perjury, or let's see, what am I looking for? Let me get a good one. All right, let me make this easy on myself here and just go right here. Open. Here we go. All right. At the bottom of my thing, it says, one of them says, I, name, being duly sworn, hereby declare my intention to be a national but not a citizen of the United States. But then also, I declare under penalty of perjury, under the laws of the United States of America, the foregoing is true and correct, executed on, and then signature. All of your stuff should say that. Have that, at least that. Unsworn declaration in there. Why is it an unsworn declaration? Because you didn't go and hold your hand up. But that is still acceptable by the courts. Because that said, under penalty and perjury, needs to be in your affidavit. And that's there. That meets the Rule 56C test. The plaintiffs, let me keep reading. The plaintiffs failed to present proper statements made under penalty of perjury warranted the court's disregard of the proposed affidavits and its granting of summary judgment in favor of the defendants. Courts throughout the country unanimously agree with the Nisho Iwa court's holding that the mere signing of a statement in the presence of a notary or the notary's placement of an acknowledgement on the statement does not then render the document a sworn statement admissible as evidence. Also, I need to add, so if you're doing third-party debt collector letters and stuff, you need to throw that stuff in there because eventually you're going to be needing that for court. So you need to update your affidavit. Anything that you're sending out that you're going to be using in a court proceeding. It is important to consider the specific elements a statement must satisfy in order for it to constitute an affidavit upon which courts will rely. The proper statement must satisfy three essential elements, and I hope y'all got a pen because I'm about to break it down. The prophet's statement must satisfy three essential elements. One, a written oath embodying the facts as sworn to by the affiant, the signature of the affiant, and three, the attestation by an officer authorized to administer oath that the affidavit was actually sworn by the affiant before the officer. Here's your rules there. That's what it's telling you. 3 a.m. and you got a reference that you can look up. 3 am.jur.2d affidavit section 8 2008. Let me see if I can pull that up and then put it in the chat for you. Looks like that's under American jurisprudence. I keep pulling up. Okay, let's see if this one will do it. This might help you. The affidavit is the use, form, and content of the affidavit. Yeah, this is good. I'm gonna put this in the chat. Here it goes. There it is. All right, so let's go back. Perhaps most critical to the evaluation of the sufficiency of a party submission is the court's consideration of whether the affiant provided the statement with a true understanding of the significance of his submission. It's got a bunch of case law. I'm going to skip down. In Tishkon, the plaintiff submitted a statement in which he incorporated the phrase hereby declares under penalty of perjury the following, but neglected to declare his statement true and correct. So you got to have true and correct in there as well. The court held that of greatest importance in its evaluation of the statement is whether the person signaled that he understands the legal significance of his statements and the potential for punishment if he lies. If a party submission demonstrates a lack of understanding of a statement's legal significance or perhaps an indifference to the penalties of perjury, the submission should be properly excluded from the court's evaluation. The requirements for a sworn statement or affidavit do not exist merely to irritate practitioners with inconsequential formalities. It has become too commonplace for practitioners to ignore the requirements for a proper affidavit and for some courts to avoid enforcing the requirements for fear of being perceived as too hyper-technical. The requirements for sworn statements and affidavits exist to protect the integrity of the truth-seeking process and to guard the rights of the parties from abuse. Failure of practitioners in courts to strictly enforce the requirements undermines the legitimacy of justice system that is dependent on truthful testimony. Substance of party submission must constitute admissible evidence. Affidavits submitted by a party must be made on personal knowledge and must set forth facts that would be admissible in evidence. Rule 56E1 FRCP. Just as requirements for the form of statement should not be relaxed, evidentiary requirements also should be strictly enforced. Failure to analyze the substance of an affidavit in light of the requirements of rules of evidence can undermine the integrity of the process. Case law helps shed light on the court's potential treatment of hearsay and other evidentiary violations with regard to affidavits. A North Carolina federal district court in 2008 was confronted with an affidavit that constituted hearsay. Gell versus Town of Aulanda. In Gell, the plaintiff had been acquitted of criminal charges and subsequently filed a civil suit against persons involved in his criminal investigation and prosecution. The defendants moved for summary judgment at 299-300. In response, the plaintiff submitted a document prepared by an investigator working on the behalf who had met with the witness for purpose of conducting an interview. The investigator asked questions of the witness and created a draft affidavit for her based on her responses to his interview questions at 300-301. The defendants argued and the court agreed that these unsworn statements in the form of responses to questions made by a witness and simultaneously recorded by the interviewer were inadmissible hearsay. If y'all paying attention, this, if you should go read this case, you'll pull this up and read this, because it's showing you a lot of times these investigators are getting statements from people, but they're not actually sworn statements, and they're not admissible, but the courts are allowing it. And if they're going to use someone's statement, that person has to be in the court to certify that they wrote that or they made those statements. Okay? In accordance with this holding, a person unsworn responses to interview questions that have been recorded by a third party are inadmissible hearsay when offered for their truth, and thus are to be excluded from the court's consideration upon a party's motion for summary judgment. In another case involving similar circumstances, several discharged police recruits filed suit against the city for wrongful discharge on the basis of race and gender. Friedel versus City of Madison, 82 F2D 965 7th Circuit, 1987. After 9 months of discovery, the defendants filed a motion for summary judgment with accompanying affidavit. The court held that the plaintiff's counsel provided an object lesson in how not to respond to a motion for summary judgment. Plaintiff's counsel provided their own affidavits to which they attached a number of unsworn interviews of police recruits. The court rejected this unsworn interview questions and responses as inadmissible evidence holding. The use of affidavits by counsel is in certain carefully confined situations undoubtedly appropriate, but it is a tactic fraught with peril. And counsel must remember that the requirements of Rule 56E are set out in mandatory terms, and the failure to comply with those requirements makes the proposed evidence inadmissible during the consideration of summary judgment motion, supporting material designed to establish issues of fact in a summary judgment proceeding must be established through one of the vehicles designed to ensure reliability and veracity. Answer to interrogatory submissions and affidavits. I'm going to stop right there because this is a long article. I think y'all get the point, right? You should get the point that the rules of evidence are written in stone. There's no getting around it. The only reason why they're getting around it because you're not challenging. You see? But keep reading that. This thing. The whole thing is excellent information. And it's got a lot of information that you can research. You know, for instance, in the next paragraph, it says the answer to interview questions were based mostly on what the person heard or felt to be the case and thus exhibited serious hearsay and other evidentiary problems and ran against the legal requirements of Rule 56E. For instance, in a case that I am familiar with personally, a lawyer made the statement that a person was arrested. That was true. That was a fact. And they were charged with some certain crimes. But then the lawyer went on to add that this person was going to be put in a mental institution, which no court or they assumed that would happen once they got released. That's hearsay. That is not evidence. And they were trying to use that to win a summary judgment. Of course, the court rejected that. But that's a lawsuit because he made statements to the defendant. So that person can now countersue for making that statement. How can he make a judicial determination where there was no judicial determination? You got to remember, when you're arrested, you're innocent until proven guilty. And for them to say and use that as a basis for impeaching you is slanderous. You're only accused. You're not guilty. And for them to use that, you can quash that statement. You can strike those statements as prejudicial. And with that being said, my daughter's calling me. And I will be right back.
Now tune in to Hindsight Radio.
Peace to the gods. You're listening to Hindsight Radio.
All right, I'm back. That's right. The place for right knowledge. I hope y'all.
Peace. Oh. Mike over here. Sorry about that. All right, let me make sure my mic is working properly. Yes, it is. All right. I was letting y'all look at that affidavit video I did a long time ago, because it still is something that you're gonna have to deal with when you go to court properly. And that works in all regards. You have attorneys coming into court trying to testify or give statements and have it equal to testimony, and that's not allowed. So, peace. It's Tuesday, August the 26th, just a few days away from September the 1st. I mean, this year's done. You know, we on the downside of it now. The children are back in school for the most part, except for in the northern part of the country. So, what took me so long to get on was I was on here just messing around, letting that play, and then I started looking up. You guys ever heard of the Jewish gematria, where words equal, you put a word in and it gives you a number, and then it gives you kind of the meaning of that word, right? So if you put the word hello into it comes up as in Jewish a 103, right? And then it gives you all of the words that come up to be a 103. Did you know that one of those words is devil? Yeah. I was like, what? Well, it does have it has hell in it. So when you're saying hello to somebody, you're basically saying devil. That's what it's saying. Right. So I'm gonna do some study on this Jewish gematria. We all know that the words are in this society are used to manipulate and distract you. Let's see if I put the word school in. What does that come up to? It comes up to a 221. How about education? Because we're gonna be talking about that tonight. Education. Oh, interesting. I'll give you all the website that y'all can go to. I'll put it in the chat for you, so y'all can do the research on this yourself. Here it is. Here it is. I don't know what's going on with it making that noise. Whenever I try to copy and paste, there it is. There's a website that I'm using. So, the title of the program. First, welcome to another episode of Truth Tuesday, Hindsight Radio, in conjunction with the Akeem Barber Church and Church of Infinite Abundance. Tonight, the title of the show is called the herd. Why did I use that term, the herd? I use it because that's how we are treated, as like a herd, a flock that has a shepherd that leads them to different places to be fed and controlled and eventually shared. You know, you go through and they when you get too big, they cut you down, or you become dinner on somebody's table. That's what flocks or herds, you know, they're just there to just get fed, treated well enough to keep them healthy enough to become sustenance for something. And in our society, they there's a few main places they use to feed you, educate you, in order for you to produce an outcome for the system. From the day you leave your mom's womb, that divine womb, everyone is talking about education. Got to get education, got to go to school. Does he know his ABCs? Does he know his simple addition and subtraction and multiplication and division? That's the program. And once you understand why the education system was created, it was created to produce factory workers, people that can go work for a corporation and help that corporation stay in business. And once they have no use for you any longer, or if the business is no longer going well, they will reduce the workforce. And then now you're stuck twiddling your thumbs, and like, okay, what do I do next? I got to find a job. I'm getting laid off. I got fired. Do y'all see where I'm going? How you have been herded, how you have been shepherded or manipulated, pushed into a certain viewpoint of what your life should be. Sad part about it is, if anyone talks against that system, most people would be upset with that person. Well, everybody needs a job. You got to do this. You got to do that. I remember I told someone a long time ago that anybody that goes and clocks in and out on a job is basically a slave to that job. A voluntary service. It's called voluntary servitude for wages or salary. No, I wouldn't call you. You call the yes. Because if you don't do what they say, if you don't follow the contract of your employment requirements, you are fired. So that means you have no choice but to do what that you can't go there and say, I'm going to come to work when I feel like it. But more importantly, how did you get to this point where this is normal for us? How did we get here? But I'll tell you how. Because a small group of people decided that they wanted to keep their businesses going. And how do they do that? How do we maintain our businesses for generations to come Because if everyone has an entrepreneurial spirit like us, then our companies would be it won't become big. It won't be a legacy. It won't be able to support our families generations on generations. So they sat down and they decided. Now, Horace Mann was the one who introduced compulsory education system to the United States of America. But he first introduced it in the state of Massachusetts. That's where it started. Where it got birthed. But he went over the pressure to get the ideas because they already had that. They were one of the first systems of mandatory education. Pressure. So he took a lot of ideas from them. Now, when I say pressure, that means today it's called Germany. Now, I did some deep diving into it, and what was the main purpose of the educational system? I'll give you some. Designed primarily to produce obedient, literate, disciplined citizens who could serve the state as soldiers, bureaucrats, or industrial workers. That was the original purpose. Three main purposes: become a soldier, a bureaucrat, or industrial workers. Emphasize punctuality, hierarchy, and conformity. Less focus on creativity or independent risk taking. Horace Mann's American Adaptation, 1830 to 1850s. Mann emphasized civic virtue, social equality, and economic mobility, not entrepreneurship. Schools were seen as the great equalizer, ensuring a basic floor of literacy, morality, and discipline. The aim was to prevent poverty and crime, assimilate immigrants, and prepare workers for industrializing America. So basically, people were herded into the educational system basically to build institutions and keep the systems functioning, becoming a cog in the system, one of the cogs, the many cogs. The system was originally built with neither of these systems, none of these educational systems are built with entrepreneurship in mind. Rather, they were designed for social order, citizenship, and workforce readiness. And, my daughter graduated a couple of months ago, and all you can hear is, what's she going to do? What's she going to do? Who's she going to go work for? What does she want to do? And they say it with such enthusiasm. Why? Because it's normal. It's normal. Remember, everything that is created by this system is designed to do one thing: create optimum outcomes, the best outcomes for that system to keep functioning. In order for the system to keep functioning, people got to adopt, or even if they don't adopt, they have to obey the rules of the system. There's many people who don't really want to go to work, right? How many people want to get up and go to work tomorrow morning? Really go. The only reason why you go, because if you don't go, you feel like you're not going to pay your bills. You won't have any money. That's why you go. It's not because you love this place so much. You love your boss. You love your job. Most people hate their job. And if they do like their job, they hate the people they work with. Or at best, if they don't hate them, they just rather not be around them. So the question is, why do why do we continue as a species, as a people, to keep supporting a system that's really not supporting you? You're supporting it. Because if everybody just say, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore, what happens? What happens? The system stops working. And then we figure out another way to survive. So not only is the education system is part of the herd process, politics, religion, all of those systems support each other. This is why you have rituals in school like pledging the allegiance of, to the flag. Then they have on the money, "In God We Trust." And then they always in school they are always promoting and celebrating Christian holidays. They go together. All the systems emulate each other. They work in similar fashion, meaning like, okay, you school, you have what? A principal, and he has a vice principal. And then he has secretaries. United States, how do they work? They got a president, vice president, secretary of state, so on and so forth. Jobs, president, vice presidents, COO, CEOs. Then they have secretaries. Then they have workers. Everything emulates each other to support its functions. The church, same way. You have a pastor. Then you have all of the bishops and all the people that support him. Everything works the same way. Although they seemingly to be trying to try to achieve different goals, right? Religion is supposed to teach you about God. Education is supposed to teach you your basics, math, reading, politics, the government, teach you about civics, shows you what civics is supposed to be about. But they all, although they do different things or seemingly different things, they all have one basic thing in common. Someone has to be the leader, and then someone has to work under that leader. The classroom, same way, right? The teacher is there to make sure that the children are taught, most importantly, how to follow directions, right? Like the math that I got when I was a kid, same stuff. They how I came to conclusion of certain mathematical equations, I would get it wrong today because today, although the answer at the end is right, but the way I came to that conclusion is wrong. They consider that wrong. So the schools are teaching you how to follow their system at the time. And every decade, they change the system of how they come up to the results of these answers. Why? To disconnect the parent from the child, so that the child can solely rely on the system, the educational system, for its learning. It will see the school as the authority of education. And let me go back to what I was saying. They all have one thing in common: what they're trying to do. Let's start with the church. The church is teaching you that God is your source of power. Look to God outside of you. The government is doing the same exact thing. Look to us. We'll give you the benefits you need in order for you to be a functioning civilian or citizen. But what you have to do is get a job. Fill out your register to vote. Get you a driver's license. And while you're getting your driver's license, sign over all your organs to us so that we can sell them and you get nothing from it. Just listen to us. You're helping your fellow man out by giving us your organs. You're a good person if you check this box off, because you're helping somebody. You're helping somebody in need. But at the same time, that person that's in need has to pay for your organ a ridiculous amount of money. And they made laws that make it illegal for you to do that on your own. So we got the politics, the political, or the government. Listen to us. We're the authority. Education says listen to the teacher. She's the authority. Follow exactly how she wants you to get to the answer to that equation. Let's get to the job. No, come here. You're going to work for us. We're going to pay you a certain amount, but you're going to do it exactly how we want it done. You're going to come when we say you're going to need to be here at a certain time and leave at a certain time. And you get 2 breaks, 2 15-minute breaks, and you get 1 30-minute lunch. See? But see, the education system preps you that way. So just imagine all of these entities got one big staff, and all it's doing is prodding you into a direction, keeping you in order, keeping you from getting out of line. So that you, by the time you realize the scam you've been played on you, it's too late. You're too old to do anything about it. Or you feel like it's too old. You're too old. You get to your 60s and look back, wow, I worked this job, and what is there left for me to do? You've been following this program all your life. Now you're retired now. What do I do? Best believe everything is played out down to the science. The only reason why Prussia even came up with that education system, because they studied the mind of man, of people, and said, if we can get these people into a school and we control the narrative, we control the information that they receive, we got them for the rest of their life. And look at it. It works. What you think is chaos is really organized. It's really organized down to the T. It's just the confusion you have and the frustration you have is by design. All of these organizations are working together. The scientific community, education, the political, they all working together for one cause, is to keep the masses in the herd mentality. Keep the masses looking at each other and fighting with each other. And we do such a great job at that. Look at the videos. You watch YouTube, you can't scroll past 2 or 3 videos when they're talking some negative thing about somebody or something. Now, this is kind of what I'm about to say, you might find disturbing. But if you're a logical thinking person, and if all of these systems are supposed to or designed to keep you under control, and me being a manager or project manager of different things and managing people up to about 50 people at a time, me having that experience, I know one thing, that you can only manage effectively a certain amount of people at a time. And as our population grows, those people, those entities, people, whoever you want to call them, that are in control, know that the population can go but so far before it implodes on itself and it needs to be reset. So you got a two choice. If you're at that level where you know that that's scientifically that's can happen, you have to do a few things. You either have to put in mechanisms to reduce the population, control the population, control and reduce, and see that people don't live past a certain age. Y'all think the average lifespan of the average person in the world or in a is just something that just, how do I want to say this? Something that just naturally happens? No, it's genetically manipulated. The Bible told you that. I'm going to cut short the days of man so that he can only live but so long. So now, if that's in the Bible, if that's a statement in the Bible, and then you got all these systems that's controlling and manipulating the minds of people, knows that the population can go but so far before it reaches a critical point where they cannot control it. They have to do something about it if they want to maintain control. So that means that maybe places that we deem are supposed to be for our health benefit are really there in design to maybe shorten your lifespan. With the add-on of the junk that's being created through our food supply. So when you start to sit there and really think about these things, and you understand how the body works, it regenerates, the cells replaces the you are today you're not the same person as you was 10 years ago. I mean, just genetically from a cellular structural point. You have all new cells. These cells that you have now are new ones compared to the ones that died off. You are constantly transforming. So that means that the intelligent design of the body was to live forever, to be immortal. But if you are constantly bombarding your body with pollutants, it wears down. And then after a while, it expires. Fasting. After about 72 hours of fasting, the body starts to heal itself. Goes and finds any problems in your body, and it goes and heals that. You take it to a week, you'll see amazing results. I know just doing short fasts, it works. That I can literally feel like I'm in my 20s again through fasting. just by fasting, nothing else, just some water, no food. I've seen the difference, and then as soon as I go back to eating again, I I get weaker. What does that say? What does that say about you? That maybe we're just eating too much. This 3 meals a day is this educational system that said you need to have three solid meals a day was all by design to shorten your lifespan. Stop and think about that. What if all of this food we're eating was designed to keep us from living past 100? One thing I noticed about my aunt who lived to be 105, she ate junk food like she Coca-Cola, but she didn't eat a lot. She ate very small portions. And I never, ever, ever saw her eat past 6 p.m. Never. She had a routine with her diet. See, the educational system was designed to give you an education that will shorten your lifespan, shorten your memory, shorten your attention span, and shorten or limit your ability to be creative. Because part of longevity is creativity. Because the more your mind wants to explore, like me, like when I get in my creative mindset, I don't want to stop. I can stay up. That's why people, how do you keep so much in your head? How do you know all these things? Because I have one thing that most people don't have. I have control of my time. And if you can control your time and you're disciplined enough and you just go in and you start studying, like I did this show about Mary and how that is the basically another way of saying Matrix, the bearer of the God child, the Logos, the divine womb. I wouldn't have never known that if I was working a job, I'd be too tired of going, oh, let me look this up. No. And then once I started looking, I had to keep looking over here, here, here. I probably today, right before the show, just within an hour before the show, I was on probably 3 different topics of study. And taking notes and putting, organizing my thoughts. So this whole system was designed to herd you, to treat you like cattle, to push you into a direction that will support its mission. And that is simply to survive. That's what these systems, they want to live on. They want to keep running. And it only works because we participate. We participate in our own destruction. Think about that. Think about that. When I moved, I relocated and I found this. Someone gave me this as a gift a long time ago. Let me see if y'all can see that. With the hindsight logo and the pen that was in there. Then I found my money pen by Steve and Corinne. Well, I had that. That was always with me. I use it all the time. Public education systems were not designed to produce entrepreneurs. They were created to provide basic literacy and morality, build civic responsibility and equality, train disciplined workers for industry, create informed, law abiding citizens. Crazy. And the thing is, if you're really paying attention, you know this because that's all they say. Get a good education so you can get a good job. I mean, it tells you what it's for. But they tell you what the educational system is for. Just a little side note. What's this guy? Dr. Umar Johnson is under. I want to see how he come out of this one, if he come out of it. You know, the school's supposed to be going up for sale because unpaid taxes. Or I don't know. Doesn't look good. And see, the reason why people will run and support something like that because they are looking for something different. And when someone comes along and offers that idea, they jump on it because they know the school system, especially for people, of our complexion, it's not for us. So if this brother was playing on people's desperate, our oppressed condition when it comes to education, he's got a lot of karma to fix. So I hope he has an answer. I hope this is not another one of those someone coming and promises something and then lets us down. I hope. I met that brother in person. Talked to him on the phone a few times. I haven't tried. I got his number. I haven't tried to call him since then because right now will be with all the, criticism that's coming and the video after video. And that's another thing that I think is just sad amongst us. We just love once we see something going wrong with each other, we love just tearing, just keep beating at it. We love that. We love seeing, oh, look at him. He was this. I knew he was no good. We love that. Do you understand when you judge, you will be judged? It's not for me to tear anybody down. I have problems of my own. It's not for me to get on here and use my platform to just tear people down. Now, I will use my platform to, what's truth and what's not, especially when it comes to all of this bills of exchange and all of this other stuff that people are promoting. Secret CAFA accounts. But although I know people do things that are not right, for me to do what has been done to us all of these years, whenever we do something wrong, the media has always highlighted all of our wrongdoings. And if just one of us do something, they put our face all over the place. Did y'all see that all of these platforms that do that only taking on the identity of the system now? The system don't have to do it anymore. Our people do it for them. And these blind, deaf, dumb, and blind Negroes so caught up in getting paid, they don't even see that. Every time they do that, they only promoting what the system has already promoted in the past. So, give them YouTube. Now we don't have to do it on the local news anymore. They'll do it for us. They'll go in there and they'll put down their women. They'll go in there and put down their men and just show all the worst of their society. And we know good and well not all of us act like these people that they put on. It's just a few of them out there. But when every platform, like with this whole document, it's probably about 20 platforms, each one of them talking about that. Before that, it was Shannon Sharp. Then before that was Diddy. And just in a general sense, it's every criticizing every black woman, well, black women for their behavior. Some black women's behavior, but they just show the worst. The types they're showing are the ratchets of the group, but not the actual representation of what black women as a whole are. Same thing with black men. See, this is what I'm telling you. The system worked so well, it has programmed people to be on remote control now. They don't have to do it anymore. They'll do it. They'll self-destroy themselves. They'll do it on their own. We get it going, stoke the fire, and they'll keep blowing on it to keep it going. And this is the result of the herd mentality. Because what does the herd do? Wherever one goes, the other follows without even questioning the direction that they're going in. And this is basically what is happening when you look at all these channels. They don't question, wait, what am I really doing here? I'm not talking about nothing about it. I'm just talking about all this bad stuff that people are doing. And it never fails. You watch these platforms long enough, the very people that do these videos, guess what happens to them? Something negative comes on them. Then they get in the spotlight. You put somebody in the spotlight and you drill that in, you're going to become in the spotlight. You judge, you will be judged eventually. Think about it. That dude, Kevin Samuels, blew up like basically overnight. And everybody said he was right. But then he died suddenly. I don't care what nobody said. That was a spiritual thing behind that. That was spiritual. And everybody, millions of people was tuning in, million people watching. He was like the number one top spot of highlighting the worst of black women. I don't care, right or right, whatever you want to say is right. That's a spiritual. You don't do that. You don't do that. Made a lot of money off it, but then his life ended suddenly. That told me something right there. Let people deal with their own problems. Everybody who finds themselves doing things that are not right, they get their pay back. You don't have to pay them back. It comes back to them. People are rewarded for what they do, no matter what it is, good or bad. They get their reward. We don't have to help it. What we have to do is sit back and have compassion and say, hopefully one day they'll get it. They'll come back to themselves. Right? the father, the prodigal son, didn't sit back judging his son for taking off. He just waited until he got himself together and came back. And then he said, okay, you come to your senses now. Look what we got for you. That's what we do. And even in the Christ mindset, he without sin cast the first stone. And all these people get on these platforms, just boom, boom, gossiping about like as if they never did anything wrong. But that's what's popular. That's what's going to get you paid in this system. Remember, this system is reverse of what everything good you're supposed to be doing. It's in reverse. It's the mirror image. It's 9/11. Wow. Now, before I go, there's something floating around called the Deagle. You go to Deagle.com. It's supposed to be something where the population, all the major countries, is supposed to be reduced in 2025. I mean, according to sources, it says it's just a conspiracy theory. But United States supposed to reduce by a significant number. Well, we laid in there, it may not happen. I don't know. Look it up. Deagle is the Deagle report. It's saying this report says that and people promote these. The World Economic Forum said that there's no document that the World Economic Forum produced that says 6 billion humans will die in 2025. That's just people just trying to get you to click on it. Like I was looking at it's saying, oh, we found a secret document from the patent of XRP by the United States of America. And it's not, and it wasn't true. It was a patent by Ripple done in the United States of America. But people don't read and they fall for it. This is what I'm talking about, the herd mentality. This is why it's so easy for people to just say something, because people got a herd mentality. They listen to something and they run at it. One of the number one things that I deal with on a daily basis in what I do is people coming to me with herd information. Nothing that they went research and read for themselves. Someone said this is the case. And you know that right there, when people come at me in that way, it tells me a lot about that person, that they really are not invested in really knowing anything. I hear people say everything. So what I do, someone said something, I saw something that someone said. I take what they say, I put it in, and I research it to get the facts for myself. And do y'all realize 99.9% of the stuff that people say is inaccurate? Their interpretation is false? Because people interpret things in a biased way to get you to lean and believe something that ain't all the way true. This is why a lot of people go in court and get slammed. You know? So, with that being said, I'm out of here. I'll see y'all. I'm not sure if I'm doing a show tomorrow because Raquel is out of town and we didn't talk about that. All right. Peace, prosperity, extreme wealth to everyone. Y'all have a good night.